Good morning from Yummy B TV. Wishing you all well, sending plenty of love your way as usual on a bitterly cold day, and hoping your weekend is going to go the best it possibly can. Now, many of you are asking more about Damien Noonan, who I believe was the younger brother to one of the most notoriously alleged criminal gangs of its time down here in Manchester, or definitely one of the most talked about. Now, what I know, this is a part one with Damien, was, rest in peace, my boy, is that one of his first lines of work or employment, if you like, getting involved in that life, if you like, was at the Hacienda nightclub. Now, when I was in the Ca's, I used to walk around with quite a lot of Manchester men, fair to say. And one of those would have been Tommy Morgan, who I believe also, who was #1 doorman at the Hacienda at one stage, or at the beginning stage. Now, there's a lot of people that say Hacienda was one of the greatest nightclubs in Manchester's history and blah, 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 blah. I used to hear conflicting kind of opinions about what the Hacienda really was, and many say that it was made up of fashion victims and gangsters, which was a recipe for disaster, almost liken it to many wings I went on into the Cat A's at sometimes when everybody's on the same wing together and you just smell the atmosphere, and there's so much mix-ups with the power struggles that go on their wings, and it's like a ticking time bomb waiting to go off, right? So believe, we have to be honest on this as well, that we hear that when Damien first started at the Hacienda, many around that time were saying that he was a bit wet behind the ears. There's also, we hear many say that he was a late developer, like someone I know. After all, some people, Warren Slaney, one of his favourite sayings was, I'm like a fine wine, I'm mature with age. So it would seem with Damien Noonan. So some describe, fairly or unfairly, but we do it properly on the Yummy B TV, that Damien, when he first started on the door at the Hacienda, he was absolutely useless. I don't really go along with that, because some of the feedback coming in about his time there, which is extraordinary, that apparently, allegedly, Damien wouldn't allow certain people to deal drugs at Hacienda with, when I heard this on the yard in Whitemore, right? They were saying, they were looking around and going, when he said, no one's selling no drugs, and this went on for about 2 years, it shows you the integrity of the man and the way that he was when he was up and coming, if you get what I mean. A real moral high standard there. And they were all going like that, hey, that can't be right, Damien. But I'm hearing that is fact, and many of them also say what a good-hearted man he was. But then there are also some I hear that say, I can't remember him ever having a fight. Wow. Right. During that time on the door in Hacienda, Tommy Morgan, as I said, was #1 doorman. No doubts about that. Now, there was an agreement, right, with the people that run Hacienda and Tommy Morgan, that in the end, he would have first say. There were negotiations that were done as well, right? That he would have the say in the end of having his security firm, or security lot rather, to be full-time at Hacienda. Now, this negotiations involved a lot of squabbling, so I hear. And instead of keeping to their original agreement with TM, they switched to Top Guard. So I think that's about right. Many of you let me know if it wasn't. But with Damien Noonan, right, because I never met him, I met Desi. Now, with Damien, now, a lot of things are said around the Johnson murders. You don't know more than me around that as well, but I know one thing, he was definitely arrested for it. And the majority say to me that he definitely didn't do that. Rest in peace. I think it's Tony Johnson as well. I knew members of that family as well, and I loved them dearly. But yeah, he went on, there was a trial or some sort, but because the police were couldn't get anyone, they got Damien, thinking that they could fish out more, people around it, the hearsay stuff, or nick him to see what comes out the other end kind of thing, or maybe a little bit more, if you get what I mean. But definitely wasn't him. But that is, again, takes your reputation a little bit higher to what probably it might not have been, or might have been, if you get what I mean. Now, the boys stuck by Damien simply because he kept everybody else out of it, and rightly so. In the end, it seems that justice was done with that particular case. There was fights outside the courtroom and outside the courthouse and that kind of stuff. We're not going to go into that. But that might have catapulted his reputation up a little bit more. So from the beginning of time, from being a morally correct, so-called wet behind the ears and a late developer, it would seem roundabout after this time, by playing in the mud, eventually some of it's going to stick on you and you're going to probably get involved in things that you might not have when you originally started out on your journey, right? All's fair and fair. And it would have been about roundabout after that, sometime after that, that he started to get his fingers in a few other pies illegally, so I believe. And one of those things being mentioned, and Uncle Yummy doesn't mind mentioning it on my TV, is that he started to get involved with some Middle Eastern so-called gangsters and that kind of stuff. And it's just so apparent that I heard, while I was in Whitemore as well, I heard that them describe him, since they've been away, the massive change in Damien, because hearing of all the gossip from the word on the street and that kind of stuff, saying he was more like Thanos in the Manchester town city centre, for whatever that means, right? So, but I took that as a bit tongue-in-cheek, but it would seem so in certain ways, because with the mixing with one of some so-called other gangsters, I'm hearing also that he made his first million and started to make a few quid as he was rising through the ranks, so to speak. And that when he went on that tragic last holiday, the accident with the quad, or a bit strange and suspicious, that just as he's kind of reached the pinnacle of, you know, his time, so to speak, because it was definitely not long after I heard that he started to, you know, get his hands on a few quid, a bit of money, so to speak. So that's my part one of Damien Noonan. But by all intents and purposes, I'm telling you, 95% of men that I met from Manchester said he was one of the most good-hearted men that they'd ever met. So coming up in a minute, a big miscarriage of justice from way back in the day, and highlights the other stuff that we've been talking on Yummy B TV. Plenty of love to you all today.